Hey ladies, are you a conservative woman just trying to find a podcast that isn't speaking propaganda right now? I get it. I'm with you. I'm here for you. We all need some encouragement and godly wisdom to remind us we are on the right track, to remind us of our identity as God's daughter. That's why I'm here, to help you grow spiritually so that no matter what life or the world throws at you these days, you cannot be shaken. It's here you're going to hear stories of women who have become victors where they were once victims. You're going to hear God's word to help you stand strong and push back the darkness. You're going to hear wisdom that is not of this world to keep you focused on Jesus. I don't know where you're at today, but I do know God is meeting you right there. He wants to bring you closer to Him. Throughout this podcast, you're going to hear bits and pieces of the pit, the trials, the difficult seasons the Lord has brought me through, so you know you're not alone. We're going to walk together and grow in our relationship with Jesus, because really that's what it's all about anyway. So join me as we seek truth, share overcomer stories, and just learn what it is to lean into the Lord. God is good. He has a good plan for our lives, and we can trust Him. My name is Meredith. Welcome to Guiding God's Daughters. Let's get real and go deep. Hey everybody, my name is Meredith, host of Guiding God's Daughters, Get Real and Go Deep, and I am so excited today to have this amazing powerhouse mother-daughter team for the pro-life movement. Many of you know that we're in the week of March for Life, so I just really wanted to have them share their story. It is powerful. I know God's going to get the glory, and I'm really just going to let them flow through this tidbit. Lacy and I went to school together, and we graduated from Notre Dame together, and we were just talking about playing music and dancing in dorms together. And so it's just kind of funny what God does. So I am going to, instead of me reading a long bio, I'm going to let each of them share a brief who they are, and then I'm going to let them flow into their story, and then we're going to talk about some of this stuff. So take it away, Lace.
All right. As you know, my name is Lacy Miske, and I graduated from Notre Dame in 1999, and also was commissioned as an officer in the U.S. Army. And and then I was able to get stationed in Germany from 2000 to 2004. I was in the 12th Aviation Brigade, and actually was deployed to Iraq in 2003, and safely returned home. Spent my last year in the Army at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, um, and in the 101st Airborne. And in 2005, I decided to leave the Army and pursue a career in corporate America, and actually use my Army logistics experience to manage transportation services at Bank of America for 13 years. Um, and it was in 2009 or 2007, Mary Logan and I finally had, my daughter and I finally had, well, I didn't really preface that I had a daughter. Is that okay? Should I leave that out of the
Yeah,
bio?
go
Okay.
ahead. Go.
But um, so I guess I'll just say, so it was in 2007 that I felt called to join the board of directors for Room at the Inn, which is now Miravia. And we were involved in building the nation's first campus-based maternity residence adjacent to a college campus, which is located at Belmont Abbey College. And it's always been my hope that Miravia would be a model for Catholic colleges all across America, to include my own, Notre Dame. And I'm still working on that. And what else? And then it was in 2009, I was invited by Notre Dame Center for Ethics and Culture to speak at Notre Dame, on South Quad at a pro-life rally in opposition to Notre Dame's honoring of President Obama as the most pro-abortion president at the time. And so that was a defining moment. Um, and that was where I first called on Notre Dame to build a maternity residence, just like we were doing at Belmont Abbey.
Okay.
Um, and like I said, I've continued to make requests to Notre Dame. In 2019, I wrote a renewed request to Father Jenkins to build a maternity residence at Notre Dame. And actually, the following year, there was major progress made at Notre Dame. And it was in August of 2020 that Notre Dame actually opened up the Family Resource Center. And I'm
Oh,
not sure if you're aware of
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's at Beckner Hall, and it's located north of the intersection of Douglas Road and Village Drive.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a huge first step, and it's great that it's a physical location where students facing a crisis pregnancy can go in order to learn what resources are available to them. Um, but it's not a maternity residence with an in-house daycare like the Miravia model at Belmont Abbey, which in my opinion allows pregnant students to complete their degrees and parent simultaneously
Mm-hmm.
more easily.
Mm-hmm.
So I continue to be part of a steering committee that is communicating to the presidents of Notre Dame, St. Mary's, and Holy Cross for reasons why we need to build a tri-campus maternity residence with an in-house daycare, and why that's necessary and essential, especially in our post-Roe America.
Yep.
So,
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna get back to you because we're gonna get the story why you're passionate about this.
right. I know. Did you want me to like go back and say that I experienced my own
Um,
unplanned
Mary
pregnancies?
Logan, why don't you introduce
Okay.
yourself first? Tell who you are, and then we'll get back to
Okay.
you. Back to you.
Yeah,
Your mom
sorry, because I
brought you
was
into
just
the
like
world.
including my bio and then I left the part out that I
You're
faced my
okay.
own unplanned
But that's not in the bio because the
Right.
bios are intrigued.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, part of the big story. Okay, so yeah, my name is Mary Logan, and I am a graduate of the University of San Diego. I majored in communications and minored in political science. And my junior year, the summer of 2021, I actually got the top presidential internship working for Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. And so I worked under Marjorie Dannenfelser, the president and founder of Susan B. Anthony. And so that was an awesome experience. And I'm sure we'll touch more about that later in the podcast. And during my senior year at the University of San Diego, I was able to create a pro-life branch with some friends and leadership, part of the club. And we were able to create Toreros for Life under college Republicans. And I had been president at that time for my junior and senior year. And I had made that push and that decision to leave a Students for Life group. I know that sounds shocking, and I'll get back to more of that hopefully later. But I left the Students for Life group at USD to basically start this new pro-life branch under college Republicans. And in that same year, we were able to host Kristen Hawkins, the founder and president of Students for Life of America. And she came to our campus and we hosted the Futures Anti-Abortion Tour. And so that in itself is probably triggering for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So there was certainly a lot of controversy and backlash, and which I'll get into later. But I think one of the proudest accomplishments really was seeing this being portrayed in several different outlooks and outlets. So it went on to reach the attention of Catholic News Agency, Catholic World Report, and the National Catholic Register. And I also helped facilitate and lead several pro-life rallies and counter protests within that same year. Upon graduation from USD, I had chosen to devote my time and energy to share my gifts and my callings in pro-life activism in a state that needs it the most. So it's kind of, when you look at it in the broader picture, it's God's timing, because by the time I ended up hosting Kristen Hawkins, I would say like a few months later, I ended up interviewing with the same organization, Students for Life, and now I serve as the first ever California Regional Coordinator for Students for Life as of this past summer. So it's been about 6 months. I really enjoyed my job, and essentially what I do is I work with all of the high school and college groups in the state of California, sharing my speech or my pro-life testimony and traveling around the state to, groups who really need to make sure that they keep that fire going despite all the odds against us in the state.
Yeah. Let's just mention again, in the state of California.
State of California, yes. Nothing more pro-abortion than California.
Nope. You are
So we know it ends with us, so we got to keep going.
Yeah, you're right in the fire, and definitely the Lord's using you, so that's awesome. Thank you, Mary Logan. So, Lacy, do you want to share why Mary Logan and you are so passionate about this?
Sure. So rewind back to the summer before well, it would have been 1998. So the summer before our senior year at Notre Dame. And it was that summer before my senior year, I had actually completed the Army Advanced Course at Fort Lewis, Washington. And so it was like it's basically boot camp, but for officers.
Okay.
And I'm sure like you've seen in the movies, it's like the Army breaks you down to build you up. So it was like I really did leave there just feeling more confident than I ever had. And I felt like I could just overcome anything after going through that. So it was really good for me.
Yeah.
And so I went back going into senior year just knowing that the rest of ROTC was going to be easy. I was going to be able to be commissioned as an officer upon graduation. And so anyway, I did have like this newfound confidence. And so I went into senior year. And then one of my friends, JW, he was not in ROTC, but he was in our class at ND, and I'm pretty sure you knew him. We had mutual friends, and we had mutual friends since sophomore year. So our feelings, it was like that. It was when we started our senior year that our feelings for each other grew stronger. And so I would say that was when we began dating early into our senior year. And then it was in March of 99. So we had gotten through the holidays and everything. We had seen each other at the Notre Dame game in Florida, the bowl game, because he had parents in West Palm and my parents were in Clearwater. So we had been dating through the holidays and everything. And then it was in March of 99 that I became concerned I might be pregnant. And my girlfriends in Green Phillips were like, no, there's no way. And so I eventually made an appointment on my own at a local women's health clinic to confirm whether I was pregnant or not. And it's so crazy. I don't know if you remember these.
Yes, very much so.
I actually found this. It's like my Notre Dame planner, 1988 to 1999. I actually have notes in it. Crazy.
Wow.
And then this is my little keychain. And so I actually, inside of it, this is crazy, in my little keychain, wallet keychain thing, I actually found this. It's a number, scary, to Planned Parenthood. And it has like this number. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that was where I called. And it's like, it just has like a phone number because this is like 1999.
Oh.
So it's like, because we didn't even have phones, right?
No, we didn't.
I'm trying to remember what I was even using to communicate. But anyway, it says like 237-6644. So I guess that was the number I called to make an appointment. I actually Googled that number to see what would come up, and it says like nurse practitioner, women's health.
Oh.
Crazy. But so that was, and I looked up the address. It did look like where I had gone to that appointment. But anyway, so I remember going to that appointment by myself in my own car. my twin sister was at Notre Dame with me, as you know, my twin sister Amanda, and we shared a car. We shared a Jeep Sport, and we lived off campus that year, our senior year, and we had one other roommate. But I went myself. I didn't tell anyone about the appointment. And then, so at the appointment, I took a pregnancy test, and it seemed like it took forever for the nurse practitioner to return to my individual room, like with the results. And I could hear her talking to one of the other workers down the hall. And when she came back and entered the room that I was in, she said, "Well, the test results are positive." And I just remember like going into shock,
Yep.
just like, I mean, not that I didn't know that that could happen based on my relationship. That was, like now looking back, was not the right thing to do. Um, but um, But yeah, no, I was in total shock though. I just thought, oh, you're not gonna get pregnant until you're married and ready to have kids. That was just like my mentality. But so I was in serious shock, and she sensed this. And so her first words to me were, "You do have other options." Um, and so I hurriedly packed up my belongings and proceeded to rush out of this clinic. And then you could tell she was a little worried about me, and she said, "You shouldn't leave alone." But like for me, I couldn't get out of there fast enough, because even though I was scared, I already felt protective of the new life that she confirmed I was carrying. And so and then I went through all the phases that one would expect, from someone in my situation facing an unplanned pregnancy. Initial shock, just who to tell, who to trust, where to go from there. And I did turn to my faith, and it was a time of crisis for me. And I prayed to Our Lady at the grotto and looked to her example for strength and courage. And her example reminded me to be open to God's will, just for better or worse. And then I first told my twin sister, Amanda. She was the first one I told, of course. And she lived with me and did Army ROTC with me. And she was just like, she was upset just that I could have gotten myself into that situation. But, after her initial shock, she became protective of me and my unborn child. And so like looking back, I was just so lucky that I had a twin sister, because not every girl in this situation would be so lucky. So I just count my blessings.
Yes.
So I wasn't sure when I was going to tell JW. He was studying for an exam that was on that Friday. So I decided that I would tell him that Friday night after his exam was over. Because we're talking like this was college life. Like, these were our problems. But this was a major problem.
Yeah.
This was a major crisis. So he came over to my apartment that Friday thinking we were going out to dinner. And that's when I told him the news that I was pregnant. And he reacted by pacing back and forth across our living room. And like no one was in our apartment. And I had told Amanda like what was gonna go down. And it was like I think they had like cranked the air way down for me. But but yeah, he was just like pacing back and forth across the living room. So he was obviously in the same shock that I had been in, and he was obviously looking at it from a different perspective than I was. But he said, and it's hard now, like, just like with Mary Logan right here, it's like she's 23 years old now. So it's like hard, like even in front of Mary Logan, just like saying, the things that we were talking about and, you know, because but it's like the truth and this is what happened. And this is like, and I'm not the only one that's ever gone through this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and JW is not either. Like
Yeah.
we, looking back, I wish that there had been more resources for him. I wish that someone had told him to talk to a priest, like, so I have empathy for, just, anyone who gets themselves into this situation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, like his first reaction was like, I will, um, he said, I will drive you to Chicago and pay for a good doctor. But it was like, thank God, like I really had grown up in this strong pro-life, household growing up. And so like that was just never going to be an option. And then, so I mean, I think he started to sense, where this was going. But he said, so then like one of the, and I remember like it was yesterday, just the things that he said, all that talk about abortion is just dining room talk. When it's really you in the situation, it's different. And he said, don't you want to wait until you have the house with the white picket fence? I mean, like all these things like sound the cliche, but like these were things that really came out of his mouth. Yeah. And like, he said he was pro-choice, and he was obviously suggesting that he would support whatever choice I made. But I mean, I told him I'm pro-life. Yeah. And no, and Mary Logan and I were talking about this, and she was like, that's so crazy that like before your relationship, you guys didn't know like where you stood on this issue. Because she's like, today with social media, there's no way you wouldn't know where someone stood on that, And so it was just like a different time. But like I had said, I grew up with a mom she stood with Choose Life signs in front of abortion clinics in the 1980s. I was listening to Rush Limbaugh in the car with my mom growing, like in high school. And one of the college essays I had written to get into Notre Dame was about the book called The Power of the Powerless. And it's a pro-life story. Wow. And I still have the essay. But yeah, so I told my twin sister just about these conversations with JW, and she grew more protective of me. She was like constantly monitoring my whereabouts, and I'm just so lucky that she was looking after me. And then the third person who I told was my friend Sarah, who connected me with the Women's Care Center in South Bend, through her mom, who was a volunteer there. So I was really lucky for that connection. And it was the Women's Care Center who helped me set up my first ultrasound appointment at St. Joseph Medical Center. And I actually invited JW to that appointment. And I remember seeing the ultrasound image for the first time with JW. And it definitely made my pregnancy more of a reality for both of us. And I remember that we both smiled just like in awe of like, just like, just seeing like the moving live image of this life that I was carrying. And so like as we were leaving the appointment, before we parted ways, like me in my car and him in his car, he said, no matter what happens, I'm glad that you chose life. And so yeah. And so like he was, yeah.
Chills are going all over me, just so you know.
He was clearly acknowledging like the life now. He was now acknowledging the life of this separate, unique person. And so, although like he did let me know from the beginning, and like I give him credit, at least he let me know up front, like he was not going to be in the picture, and he was he did not feel ready to parent, and so like at least he let me know up front so that I could just like, move forward and
Yep.
just, just think about what I was going to do next with my decisions. So so I did find support from my twin sister, of course, and a couple of close friends that I confided in, because there were still a few months left until graduation. And I feel lucky because a lot of women get themselves into this situation and they're much further away from graduation than I was. So I can completely empathize with them. And that's why I've become, just involved in the pro-life movement so that I can help other women in this same situation.
Yep.
And their children. So anyway, so then I eventually I had to figure out how I was going to tell my parents, and they were in Florida, and eventually I found the courage to tell them over the phone. And they were, they had initial reactions which were normal. How could you get yourself into this situation, from my dad, and then but my mom was more like, everything's going to be okay. um so in the end, like after their initial shock subsided, they were completely supportive and just wanted me to know that everything was going to work out, and they were going to help me get through graduation, and then we are going to regroup in Florida and go from there. So they just wanted to help me, just stay healthy and get through to graduation. But yeah, so I, again, very fortunate. I was able to graduate from Notre Dame on schedule, with a BA in American Studies, and I earned my ROTC commission as a second lieutenant in the Army. And then after graduation, I returned to my parents' home in Florida, the home that I grew up in, and I was granted a delay from active duty.
Okay.
And I was able to receive counsel from Kimberly Home, which is a pregnancy resource center in my hometown. And then it was actually miraculously, it was on All Saints Day in 1999 that Mary Logan was born. So yeah. And I named her Mary Logan after the Mary is after Our Lady.
Yep.
And it was Mary's example that had reminded me to be open to God's will.
Yeah.
And I think, when we place ourselves at God's disposal, he will do great things for us.
Amen.
And then and I hope we love to share this. Mary Logan shares this too, but when my dad first laid eyes on Mary Logan, he came to the hospital after she was born, and he came to the hospital, and I was, as I held Mary Logan in my arms, he said, "This is your gift for making the right decision." And that just stuck with me. I'll never forget him saying that.
Beautiful.
But yeah, so the Army not only allowed me to delay my report date to officer basic course, but they also worked with me to get stationed in Germany with my twin sister so that she could help me co-parent Mary Logan, and just yeah. So, and we were all in Germany from 2000 to 2004. So Mary Logan was from age 1 to 4. And yeah, so, and Amanda and I were in different brigades. So it was like when she was deployed, I was there. When I was deployed, she was there. And we joked that we were pretty much dual military. So
Yeah,
it was amazing.
totally.
But it was a win-win for the Army. It was like, it was a win for the Army because we were able to serve successfully. And it was a win for us because we were able to help each other and be together. So
wow, the blessing.
But I love it when the Army can, think out of the box and actually help families.
Yeah.
So yeah, my last year in the Army was at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, like I said, and And actually, I was stationed again next to my twin sister, except she was married this time.
Oh,
But it was great. And then in 2005, I got out of the Army and moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I started my career at Bank of America. And it was in Charlotte where Mary Logan and I finally had some stability, and I felt called to give back. And I learned more about Room at the Inn, which is now Miravia, and sat on their board of directors from. I ended up sitting on their board of directors from 2007 to 2013, but it was amazing that we actually got to build the nation's first maternity residence and daycare on a college
mhm.
at Belmont Abbey.
Wow.
So, and then it was in 2009 that I was invited by Notre Dame Center for Ethics and Culture to speak at their peaceful rally for life. And that was organized by ND Response in opposition to Notre Dame's decision to honor President Obama as the most pro-abortion president at the time. And I don't, do you remember like the controversy around that?
Yes, because
Yeah.
my dad was head of Catholics for Bush. So he
Oh,
was
wow.
literally, I remember he was talking to all these bishops. He was like, I've talked to this guy. I mean, he was on fire. We can't get this
Whoa.
guy to come here. So I vividly remember.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. It was actually, so yeah, so you remember that whole controversy. I mean, they were even talking about it on Fox and
Yeah,
Friends,
yeah, I
and
remember.
like it was national news. I mean, it was world news,
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
So I ended up actually having I ended up sharing my personal story as a Notre Dame graduate who had faced an
Mm,
unplanned pregnancy my senior year. And so, and this is it was in First Things, this was the article, but
wow.
yeah, so that was it. It was published April 4th, 2009 in First Things. But I asked Father Jenkins the question. I said, who draws support from your decision to honor President Obama, the young pregnant Notre Dame woman sitting in that graduating class who wants desperately to keep her baby, or the Notre Dame man who believes that the Catholic teaching on the intrinsic evil of abortion is just dining? And
Mm.
so yeah, so that made its way around the pro-life blogs. And
Wait,
so
so how
yeah,
did he
so and then that was
how did he
when we were in.
respond?
Wait, what?
What how
Oh,
did
how did he respond? He didn't really respond, but I did send a follow-up request for them to build the maternity residence. And Father Jenkins did respond to that. And he actually started a task force
oh good.
to address the issue. And then, I mean, it took until 2020 to build the Family Resource Center, but it's there now. Okay. And now we're still working on the maternity residence. But yeah, so Mary Logan was 9 years old at the time, and she stood next to me as a witness to life as I spoke and shared our story. She was like, I know everyone was like, because there were seven speakers, and one of the speakers said, "That's not fair. You have like the most amazing props for your speech." So I literally have this witness for life standing there right next to me.
That's
Not that you're a prop, Mary Logan, but
The pro-choice side would say I was.
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I know they try to say, "Oh, she's using her daughter,"
Little do they
but
know.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So, but yeah, so I spoke and shared our story and um, called on Notre Dame to build a maternity residence under the Golden Dome.
Mm.
And then Father Wilson Miss Campbell, Holy Cross priest, he also spoke that day. And after that event, we stayed in touch. And he really did. He prayed for me that I would find a husband and a father for Mary Logan. And the following May, which was the month of Mary, May, in 2010, I reconnected with Bobby Miske, who I had done Army ROTC with. He was 2 years younger than me. Um, but we reconnected with Mary Logan. She was 10, and we hit it off like that first day. And then the following May, um which again is the month of Mary. In 2011, we were married at the log chapel at Notre Dame by Father Wilson Miss Campbell, and we named our firstborn son Wilson after Father Wilson Miss Campbell. And then Bobby officially adopted Mary Logan on July 26th, which we later learned is actually the feast day of Saint Anne and Saint Joaquin, who are the parents of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And they're the maternal grandparents of Jesus. but yeah, no, it's so crazy because Saint Anne is actually the patroness of unmarried women, wives, expectant mothers, childless couples.
Yeah.
And then Saint Joaquin is the patron of fathers, grandfathers, and married couples. So we thought that was so neat when we figured that out much later, that day was actually that feast day.
Wow. I love when the Lord does that. Just lines it all up.
It can't be a coincidence.
No.
So yeah, that wraps up my side of the story.
Yeah, you definitely need to write a book, and by the time she's done, it's going to be absolutely, because
you're going to have been our motivation.
Good. Well, yeah, you can keep the recording, and okay, let's make sure we got it. Well, that's incredible.
Well, when I wrote the article, it was called Notre Dame, My Mother. They wanted me to publish a book, but I was kind of in the trenches as a single mom.
Yeah, it wasn't time yet.
It wasn't the right time, and now we could, publish it together.
Well, I'm also like, man, you guys could speak together anyway.
Oh.
Maybe this is the first place. Well, we know your daughter's already getting started on it. So thank you for sharing the whole backstory and just how you just let the Lord guide you. And what a blessing your sister is. I mean, what a blessing of a twin sister. Oh, it's just the coolest.
She really is.
Yeah. And your mom with her passion for pro-life. And then, anyway.
Yeah.
So Mary Logan, you want to share your side? Was she frozen?
Oh, can she hear us?
She might be frozen. Oh,
that's so weird. Oh shoot.
Mary Logan.
She's frozen.
Frozen.
No. No. Okay, maybe she'll call
back for a minute.
Okay.
There was something else.
But I didn't add. So currently I'm a mother of 5 now.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe you had it.
Crazy.
Our daughters, like, not that far.
I know, yeah, because you had Ellie a year after I had Leodin.
Yeah, because
right?
I had her.
I think she's about a year younger.
She was born July of 2019.
Oh, yeah. So Leodin was born in June of 2008.
Oh. Now
I know, we're so lucky to have these babies. So lucky.
It is so cool. Oh, there we go.
I love it. I know. I just had my 5th in August. He's such a blessing.
Oh.
But yeah, so mama 5 and but yeah, I continue to stay involved in the program.
Yeah.
As much as I can.
God's not done.
Also, for the viewers, I'm in California. There's a lot of flooding, and my power just went out for a second.
No.
So
of course.
I heard it and I saw the lights flicker. So hopefully it won't happen again. I'm not charging anything. I'm just gonna leave.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry about that.
That's okay. Why don't we end it and then we'll just all call in again?
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for tuning in today. If you love this podcast, make sure you leave a review on Spotify, share it with your friends, visit my website, or follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Get Real with Meredith. See you next time on Guiding God's Daughters.